right, so I'm going to take this with you here and let's see what we come up with. Starting here at the top. Okay, so question one, I've got this eye dissected, and we're going to look at it, see what we can figure out.
Please come to the office. Elena Schaffner, please come to the office.
There's some disadvantages to recording at school. Okay, so what I'm seeing here on this first picture of the eye, it's dissected and the cornea is peeled back. So that's what that is right there. So I cut this cornea all the way, like 3/4 of the way around, and just kind of folded it back. So we're looking at the front of the eye with the cornea folded back. So number one is the thick white tissue layer, and that is the sclera. The sclera. Don't shoot till you see the whites of their eyes. Don't shoot till you see the sclera. Now there's a thin layer that's on top of the sclera that if you touch the white of your eye, that's what you're actually touching. It's a thin layer that kind of covers the outside or the top of that. And that is known as that's called the conjunctiva. If you've ever had pink eye, that's called conjunctivitis. That's what that's all about, is an inflammation of that tissue layer. Number three, again, like I said, this is the cornea. This is supposed to be the clear part of the eye, but after we dye, it becomes opaque, and that's why these are not very clear. But that part right there, number three, is the cornea. All right, next, number four. Number four is the open space in front. Now, I clearly opened the space way much more than it should be normally, but in front of the iris and behind the cornea, that open space that's filled with aqueous humor is called the anterior chamber. Anterior because it's in the front, not in the back. 5 is asking you, what layer is this? This is the colored part of the eye that adjusts its shape to allow light in or let less light in, and that is the iris. The iris. And then that brings us to number 6, which is the hole. Now, it doesn't look black because there's a lens right in front of that, and that lens, which should be clear, is also opaque because it's after death. But the hole right here going through there, that hole is known as the pupil. All right, the next one we got here, number 2. Okay, so let's start with 7. Should be clear and flexible, but is not anymore. This is removed. This is the lens of the eye. And that's why I was specific to, should be, but isn't, and it's also not in place. So that's the lens. Number 8 is a layer in the back of the eye. That's black. 2 important things about this layer. One is that it is black. It's loaded with pigment, so light in the eye gets absorbed and not reflected. That layer is called the choroid. It's called the choroid. So that's one important thing. But another that's very, very important about this layer of the eye is that it has all the blood vessels in it that supply the eye and support the retina. Number 9. Number 9 is the most important layer in the eye, arguably, because it's the only layer that sees. And if you look through here, it looks like a really thin layer of scrambled eggs, kind of, and that's super gross. And you can see right through here how it's folded up. This part right here is the retina. That's the thing that actually has the rods and the cones in it, the thing that neural tissue that's telling your brain, here's what we're seeing here. So number 9 is the retina. Number 10 is a ring, the point of attachment for number 9. So where the retina attaches, this part right here is called the optic nerve. Is the optic disc. The disc is the attachment point for the retina where it connects to the optic nerve. Okay, so that's the ring point of attachment 10. So then that brings us to what connects number 10 to the occipital lobe of the brain, and that is going to be the optic nerve, cranial nerve number 2. Number 12, the gelatinous material. There's 2 fluids in here. One's more of a liquid or watery, and one's more jelly-like. Number 12 is the jelly. That's called the vitreous humor, sometimes called the vitreous body. Where 13 is the liquid, it's kind of spilled out there, and that is called the aqueous humor. Aqueous, like water-like. Okay. Number 14 is pigment in this layer. I threw a distractor in here for you because I want you to be able to distinguish between these two things, melanin and melatonin. This is melanin. Melanin is the pigment. Melatonin is a chemical in your brain that helps you with your sleep and wake cycles and helps you sleep. So I wanted you to be able to distinguish between those two. Okay, match the term to the description. Condition where the eye is too long. This one means that the eye cannot focus the image onto the retina without corrective lenses because the retina is too far back. This is the opia that I have. It's myopia. The one that's the eye is too short is going to be hyperopia, just quite the opposite of that condition. Scientific name for perfect vision, it's called emetropia. Emetropia. Misshaping of the cornea. This is where if you, some people have a prescription that's like 20 to correct for 20/80, or they have like a -2 prescription. Well, in addition to that, some people need corrective lenses to correct just a little bit of in the cornea itself. It's not exactly uniform or the same all the way through. So they have to adjust for minor changes within the cornea, and that's astigmatism. This next one I didn't talk about in class. Too much aqueous humor in the eye. It builds pressure. That's what glaucoma is. Glaucoma is there's too much pressure in the eye. And at your eye doctor, they test for this by blowing that puff of air into your eye, and it bounces back into the machine and tells them by how quickly it bounces back how much pressure is in your eye. Age-related hyperopia, this one is known as, this is called presbyopia. As we get older, our lens doesn't flex as well, doesn't recoil back into its original shape as effectively, and as a result, people need reading glasses. Bacteria eating holes in the front of the eye. This is known as corneal ulcers. Take your contacts out, kids. I mean it. I got corneal ulcers one time, and it hurts. When the light hurts your eyes, that's not good. Okay, it means bacteria are digesting your corneas. Don't do that. Perfect visual acuity, the quantity for that would be 20/20. That means that at 20 feet, you can see what somebody with perfect vision sees at 20 feet. That by transitive property, I think it is, in math, means that, you've got perfect vision. Mine's maybe worse by now, and I have astigmatism, but my general visual acuity is 20/80. Legally blind, no such thing as illegally blind, but, to be considered blind by the letter of the law means you have 2200, means that you have to be at 20 feet, you can see what someone with perfect vision can be standing 200 feet away and see. Term for bending of light as corrective lenses do, this term is refraction. To refract light is to bend light, and that's the whole purpose of glasses and contacts, is to bend it so it can come into focus on the lens. Not on the lens, bend it so it comes into focus on the retina. Now this one has given people a bunch of trouble, it seems. Select all the following tissues that light must pass directly through. Okay, there's only 2 tissues that light actually passes directly through, because they're the only 2 clear ones. Cornea is one of those that light passes directly through, and another one is the lens. That's it. Light can land in a number of other places and be collected by or funneled by, but that's really it on this one here. So you can collect. It will pass through these 2 layers here. Okay. In cataracts, part of the eye becomes cloudy, can no longer light in. It's replaced, and it's the lens that is replaced. And we will follow up with the rest on our next video. So we'll pick up at question 6.